know if you can see. Let me. There. Sorry. This is the old one. We've done this sign. We did this sign for this client as well. See, just a way different facade, but it looks like that was, this specific sign was 63 inches. And then there was another one.
That was over the old front doorway, correct?
Yep. So that was on, hold on, bear with me. That was on this side of the building. The entranceway was over here.
Yeah.
And then this was the sign on the side of the building. And this sign size was 160 inches by 49 and a half inches. 160 inches long by 49 and a half high. But that was also just one business. This is two businesses, totally separate businesses. They're not in any way the same owners or anything like that.
Do you have a summary of the square footage of signage going on the building? Did that met code what was being asked for?
I think your code says that for multi-use buildings, so 2 or more tenants, that the signage can be 5 foot high by 8 foot wide. Somebody might want to just double check me on that. But when I was reading over the code, that's what I noticed. So our signage, because of the limitation of height and just because it's very linear, I think is not within that code. We just didn't have that high of a space to work within to stack the letters, especially with Adirondack Ortho, without being too small to read.
Hey, Jeff. I have a
Yeah.
couple.
Yep, go ahead, Tom.
So I think, and correct me if anybody knows the code better, I'm trying to read it here. I think it's for facade mounted signs, which with the old ones would have been, it's based on the linear feet of the building, actually. It's a square foot for every linear foot, isn't it?
That's what I thought.
So with that being said, do you know the linear feet of the building, and do you know the square feet of the signage that's proposed?
Linear, bear with me just one moment.
And I think because it's considered to be a corner lot, likely to be at least to be determined a corner lot. Jeff, I don't know how that would apply to the Mannix Road versus the Route 4 side, because there's 2 different sets of linear feet there.
Right, we have on the application a request for 30.86 square feet of channel letters. That's for Adirondack Orthodontics. I don't know that square footage counts for the second sign.
The second sign is 30.86 square feet, which is the All Kids Smile. And just to back up, I apologize, I missed this one. This was the third sign on the building, the old business. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. This one. This was on the back side, and this is 17 feet long and 73 inches high.
And Emma, that sign faced I-90, I believe.
I am not 100% sure, just because I'm not from the area, so I didn't see this one before, and my coworker actually worked on this project with the client prior. So I have the full application. I just don't know in detail more about locations of where things were, just because, like I said, I did not work on this project directly.
So you're replacing 3 signs with 2 in any case?
Yep, Correct.
So again, just, I'm not sure that we actually answered the question. So there's two 30.86 square feet signs on one of the facades. And what about on the other one? That would be, on that one would be the, 30.86 times 2.
Nope. So the only signage is going on this area right here. And then, so this sign, the Adirondack Ortho sign, is 67.2 square feet. And the All Kids Smile sign is 30.86 square feet. That's the only signage that's going to be directed or mounted directly on the building. No
And
other
so the-
elevation.
Yep. And then for the follow-up question, do we know the linear feet on each frontage?
I can certainly get that information. I just don't have it off the top. I don't know off the top of my head without scaling the elevation drawings. I just don't know if I can do that quick enough for you while we're on the meeting.
One of the clarifications too in front of us is, I guess, to refocus, and I kind of got us off track, so I apologize. I just like having some of the numbers and background. So if it's an improvement in conditions, that's a good thing. But we are to take under assumption that the signs do meet the rest of the code because the code enforcement officer did not deny them. So
Okay.
the only two things that these signs were denied on was the fact that they're being placed on the utility mechanical screening, which is actually up above the roof line of the building. So that's where this rendering does come in handy, as it shows kind of architecturally how that screening was built into the architecture of the building. So the screening kind of blends and actually looks like part of the roof, not just an extension.
Yeah, and then my other question would be is that, we've all driven by it, thousands of times, but if you go to the Google Street View on this, it's pretty clear that the berming doesn't really come into play in blocking the view of the building except for over in front of Holiday Inn. There's almost no berming. If you again, just go to Google Maps and go to the Street View, you can actually see the parking lot from Route 4 as you come into the circle. As you come
As
into
you
the roundabout.
approach from the south, but as you approach from the north, the berm's there, correct?
Yeah, if you're coming, actually after you pass Holiday Inn, you can see the parking lot because the berm comes down and flattens out. But it's a significant berm over in front of the Holiday Inn.
And just the setback really played a big key into just the location too. It's so far off the road. It's a very mile. What's the speed limit there? I think is it 45 or 55?
45.
45. So people are going decently fast. So we really were focusing on visibility. We even, as you can see from the proof submitted, we cleaned up kind of the verbiage and the text that were originally on the conceptual, just to kind of shorten it, make it easy for people to see and identify the building and the signs.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. So Emma, in terms of the size of the lettering, just maybe comment on that. It seems like you try to minimize that. Can you maybe talk about whether this could have gone smaller if you were trying to make it, kind of given that minimum variance, or how did you guys think about that in terms of what you did from sizing on the signs themselves?
Yeah, we tried several different ways. I have an entire folder full of different configurations. So we did try to scale it back as much as we possibly could. But like I said, visibility wise, being so far off the road and just working with the client's logos, I mean, Adirondack Orthodontics is a lot of letters. So we really tried to make it fit within the space without being too large, but also make it so people from the road and clients who are new to that area or just going to this location could easily find it and identify. And that's really why we tried to include the teeth which is a major part of the logo, and then for Adirondack, and then the smiling tooth for All Kids Smile, just so it takes up some square footage for sure. But we wanted to make it so people could see it, both of those logos, and know that that's where they needed to go or pull into.
Okay, thank you for that. And at night, there's a night view of the Adirondack Orthodontics. Is what the night view for the Kids Smile? Is it is the tooth? I mean, what's lit up there? Just really, if you could just share that, or maybe that's in here.
No, you're right. I think the Adirondack ortho doctor would just wanted to get a better idea of the night view, but All Kids Smiles didn't need it. It's basically the same thing as Adirondack ortho. The tooth will light up. It's kind of just one little logo circle, and then the letters are individually lit the same as Adirondack is as well. So both signs are kind of manufactured the same way.
Okay. They're not blinking or flashing.
No.
Good.
No. No.
I was teasing you. That's good.
Just for, to Tom's point, you guys can see this Google Street View now, correct?
Yep.
All right. So that just shows the existing site. You can see where the old Four Seasons sign was, the tan background. I actually think it was bigger than what that box is. But you can also see the round circle where the sign over the doorway was. And then the mechanical screening up top that's kind of been colored now. We don't have a good current view of the way that building looks, but you can see where the screen is. So these signs would be, looks like comparable to the height that the old circular sign was above the front door. It's a good point, Tom. And to Tom's point, you know, the berm does come down a little bit. That was a request of the developers, part of the roundabout construction, I remember well. But there are some trees here and stuff to work through.
I have one more question as well, and I'm not sure it's relevant, but it's really just kind of a question to fact. Are the signs already installed?
No. The monument sign is, but that we got a permit approval. It was just sliding in faces, but we have not even produced either set of channel letters. That's not our process. We like to get town approval, and you're great. We like to get your approval before we start anything, because we don't want to have to backpedal.
Okay.
One reference point, Tom, I do think they have a couple of, there are 2 banner signs up where they've printed them. So there's been
Yes.
2 signs up on that facade for the past few months anyway.
Yep, and yes, I do remember we did print off banners, and then we made sure that was going to be okay with the building inspector, and he gave his blessing.
And yeah, those are hung temporarily, obviously. And
I think
So-
that's probably, yeah, Jeff, I think that's probably what I've seen driving by, and it's just, you know, my eyes are probably playing tricks on me here, so.
but
Well,
it's-
no, they're probably not, because the banners are the same as what the signs will look like.
Okay.
Is it the same square footage as the final sign?
The banners,
Yeah.
I don't think so, only because our printers can only print so high. And I just, off the top of my head, I don't remember. I think it's somewhat similar. I think it might have been a 3x7 or 3x8. I just don't, without looking at my banner proofs, I don't remember.
You know, I will make a note that they have been up there for at least a few months and have not heard a complaint about them yet. So just a point of reference. Also, for reference, I believe the Stewart's down at Cow's Corners has their Stewart sign up along there within their shingles on their roof that have been there for quite a while too. So not the only spot that's done this. And again, that mechanical screening has been there a while. So this being placed on that existing, it doesn't extend up above that feature, just on it. All right.
And what about, we talked about the lighting a little bit. Are they planning on having evening hours, or is it just a matter of advertising?
They can. It's whatever. They can set the timer to, you know, if the town has a preference, you know, they can go on at 6 a.m. or shut off at 6 a.m. and then maybe shut off in the evening at 10 or something like that. So it's all how you set your timer, and that can all be adjusted.
Any other questions from the board members? Hearing and seeing none. With that, Emma, anything else you want to add, or is that good?
I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Actually, before I do that, Dahlia, anything in the chat room, just by chance?
No, nothing.
Seeing none, so I should ask if there's any members of the public that wish to comment on the appeal before we close the public hearing. Seeing and hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that.
Okay, made by Matt Ostagai, because I heard it and saw it at the same time. I'll take a second, John Conway.
Yep.
There you go. Thank you. All those Matt in favor, yes. Tom in favor.
Yes.
John, yes. Bob.
Yep.
Scott.
Yes, Jeff.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Thanks, Emma. You're welcome to stick around and listen in through the process, or bail and enjoy your evening. It's your call.
Thank you. I just want to make sure I missed my audio went in and out a little bit. The signage is approved?
No, we still need to go through seeker, a deliberation, and then we will most likely vote after that.
Okay, is that at the end of the meeting? I'm sorry, I just
Yes,
did not.
that's at the end of the meeting. You're welcome to listen in to stay in, or you're welcome to just call the planning department tomorrow to find out the resolutions. Your call.
Okay, I will have Kristen follow up. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time. Have a good evening, okay?
Thank you, you too.
Thanks,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Okay, with that, we can go to seeker. And because this is a commercial property, I will make a motion for the Zoning Board of Appeals to declare seeker lead agency in regards to Appeal 2020-02 JMA Properties 4 Middle Mannix Road, application for 2 area variances. The Zoning Board of Appeals has determined that this is an unlisted action, is progressing an uncoordinated review under SECRA, and declares itself the lead agency. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second that, Jeff.
Second by Mr. Seward. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, voice vote as follows. Matt Ostagai,
Yes.
Tom Hickey,
Yes.
John Conway,
Yes.
Bob Seward,
Yes.
Scott Stravell.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. With that, we have the typical seeker assessment form, part 2 impact assessment. Does anybody need a refresher on the 11 criteria we look at to either have no or small impact, or a moderate to large impact? Seeing or hearing none, I will make a suggestion that this signing being placed on the facade of this building rather than below will have no or small impact to the 11 seeker criteria. Any discussion for that? Seeing, hearing none, I will make a motion in regards to Appeal 2020-02 JMA Properties 4 Middle Mannix Road. The Town of East Greenwich Zoning Board of Appeals hereby determines, based on the information and analysis submitted for Part 1 of the short environmental assessment form and other materials submitted by the project sponsor or otherwise available to the reviewers, and after careful review of Part 2 impact assessment, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second
I'll
that.
second it, Jeff.
I think Matt got that one, Scott. So Matt Ostagai on that second. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, voice vote as follows. Matt Ostagai,
Yes.
Tom Hickey,
Yes.
John Conway,
Yes.
Bob Seward,
Yes.
Scott Sturvell.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, guys. With that, we can enter into workshop. Does anybody want to kick off discussion on this appeal and their thoughts?
So I'll kick off, Jeff. I think one of the main things for me is that, and we don't have any current pictures, so I believe there's actually some door overhangs that are on that front facade that weren't there before, so that facing is a little bit changed.
Yes.
But as a matter of fact, you can clearly see the whole facade of the building. I don't disagree that having it higher gives it much better, a much better view as it's coming around the circle and everything else. But I don't think that it needs to go on the facade specifically because of a lack of sight line. There's a clear sight line to the rest of the building, even though it does create a better sight line. The other thing is, look, if you asked me where 4 Middle Mannix Road was, and I didn't have Google Maps, I would have been driving around all over the place trying to find it. So I think the necessity to have, a real obvious sign for people to get their way around the roundabout right there is a necessity for being on time for your appointments, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So Tom, you're saying you think there's a feasible alternative, but understand the ask based on you trying to find it, right?
Yeah, look, I think if you look at it, and they put those doors in on the Route 4 side that I think has an overhang, not unlike the one that's pictured on the Hewitt side, that it may not be able to have as much square footage because of that, because it separates it. But you can see the parking lot. You can see the cars in the parking lot while you're driving by from both directions. So I don't think it has to be on the facade to be visible, but I understand the desire to have it as high as possible.
Yeah, I think it's justified having it that high because, in my view, I mean, it just doesn't seem that high in relationship to the road. Perhaps I'm going through that circle a little faster than everybody else, but the building really does seem to be hidden to me, and I think that's probably the safest place to put a sign. It's what I would do if I were involved in this. It doesn't seem obtrusive to me at all, or even distracting from traffic.
Jeff's taking us for
Right.
a
I think when you think about the character of the neighborhood, right, as one of the 5 criteria, I don't see this being a detriment to the character of the neighborhood at all.
To your points, I just pulled up the McDonald's building on Route 4 just to the north, and then obviously Aspen Dental, AT&T, and Moe's and GameStop with the signs on the facades. But to Tom's point, up above kind of the entryway of the buildings, the McDonald's one's probably a closer example of what they have proposed. It's sticking, kind of up above the rest of the architecture of the building. But as you drive by, you have street level landscaping. So to be able to see up over the landscaping, as Scott just mentioned, the consistency maybe of the corridor is there.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying it necessarily should disqualify it, but I think it should definitely be a discussion point.
Actually, just, offshore pier, very similar thing. You could argue that's up on, is that above the roof or part of the roof? It's not really facade anymore. So
The old mansard roof.
Yeah. And I think the style of the building front, it does blend very nicely. It's hard to discern the roof line from the building itself. I think they've done a nice job with that component. And I think they've minimized the sign to the best of their ability, given the lettering and what they have. So I think that should be taken into consideration too. We wouldn't be granting something excessive in that regard. Jeff, what did we approve for Four Seasons? Because we gave them the extra variance, didn't we, when they came last time, or did we not? Do you remember that
Trying
one?
to recall what they came in for. If they came in for size, I believe they came in for size variances because they were below the roof line, but they were large sizes, which is what she got into with the 3 different signs that they had. One,
I think you're right, Jeff. I think it was the square footage. And one of the good things about this project, if my math is right, is this is a lot less square footage and signage versus what was there before.
yeah, it's a great reduction. It's a good point, Bob, because that one she said was 17 feet by 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huge.
I remember that.
That's based I-90. I don't believe they're proposing to sign the I-90 side anymore, which is good.
I was just also looking to see if there was any houses on the Route 4 side of Thompson Hill Road in that area, just in case there would be any, any lighting pollution for them, and there's none. It's everything's on the opposite side of Thompson Hill Road there.
And I do think this is somewhat contained. If that was an enclosure with a top on it around the utility structures, you could claim the top of that area would be the roof line. So these would be below the roof line, these signs. They don't project up above the last architectural line on the facade. So that's good. Any other discussion points? All right, here none. I will make a motion tonight unless anybody objects. Okay. In the matter by JMA Properties for 2 area variances, resolution and final decision of Board of Appeals, appeal number 2020-02. Whereas an application has been filed by JMA Properties LLC of 302 Washington Avenue Extension, Albany, New York, 12203, proposing the installation of 2 facade-mounted signs on a windscreen in the OC zoning district. The review of the proposed work will not comply with the following provisions of the town zoning law, section 3.3.7H, sign sizing, color, and placement. Signs which are mounted on the vertical, horizontal, or sloped surfaces of the building roof or extend beyond the roof line or sides of the building are not permitted. And whereas the applicant has filed an appeal requesting 2 area variances at the property located on 4 Middle Mannix Road, East Greenbush, New York, tax map number 155-4-3, and whereas the Board of Appeals has duly published a notice of public hearing regarding this appeal in the record on May 17, 2020, and whereas notice of the public hearing was provided by certified mail to the owners of all property within 200 feet of the land involved in the application, to the Town Planning Board, and to the Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning, and whereas a public hearing was held by the Board of Appeals on Thursday, May 28, 2020, to consider this appeal, and whereas the Planning Board of the Town of East Greenbush at its February 26, 2020 meeting provided a report of the requested 2 area variances with a recommendation, and whereas at this hearing, the applicant, as well as any and all persons interested in this appeal, were heard, their statements recorded, and various written material, including exhibits, if any, were entered into the record. And whereas all statements, written material, and exhibits submitted in connection with said appeal have been carefully considered, and whereas this appeal has met all the requirements of the seeker and the teacher, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Appeals makes the following findings of fact with regards to these signs. 1, there will not be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, as several similar signs exist on commercial establishments in the highway corridor, as well as the sign will not project above the last horizontal banding of the building facade. 2, there is no other method available to the applicant as the remaining facade was broken up by a doorway overhang and windows into the building. 3, the requested variance is substantial in that it is above the roof line. However, the windscreen element creates a false building frontage which will contain these two signs. 4, the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect on the neighborhood as it is a commercial establishment and the signs blend into the architecture of the building and are consistent with other commercial establishments in the corridor. The alleged difficulty is self-created. However, thou shalt not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Resolved that the application for the installation of 2 facade-mounted signs on the windscreen be granted with no conditions. This resolution was moved by Jeff Pangburn and seconded by
Seconded.
John Conway at a meeting duly held on May 28, 2020. Any discussion? Hearing none, a vote was taken as follows. John Conway,
Yes.
Matt Ostagai,
Yes.
Tom Hickey,
Yes.
Jeff Pangburn, yes. Bob Seward III,
Yes.
Scott Stravell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0. All right, with that, back to the agenda. We have our next meeting on June 9th, 2020, where we have 2 public hearings, correct, Allison?
Yes.
Thank you. And listed here, actually, appeals 3 and 4. We'll get through them hopefully as well as we did tonight. With that, we have approval of minutes from February 25th, 2020. I know there were some comments back and forth. Allison addressed them. Allison, who can vote on those?
Everybody but Bob.
Everybody but Bob, thank you. I don't know what about Bob, but with that, a motion to approve the minutes.
I'd be happy to move to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion by John Conway, second.
I'll second.
Second by Tom Hickey. Matt Ostagai in favor.
Yes.
Tom and John, you guys are good. Bob can't
Yes.
vote. Scott Stravell.
I'm good.
Good, and I'm a yes. Motion carries 5-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you. All right, with that, I will say we can disconnect unless any other comments. Adam, you good from your aspect?
Yeah, I'm good. Do you you want to make a motion to close the meeting and then we can stop the streaming?
Sounds good. I will make said motion to end the meeting of May 28, 2020. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Jeff.
Seconded by Mr. Seward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 6-0. We can stop the streaming. Thank you.